What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we're gonna talk about my very first true love, the LTD EC1000 Amber Burst. Let's do it! Alright guys, hope you're doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle, and I usually take high gain amps, guitars, cabs, pickups, speakers, overdrives, record them with a simple setup and give you guys the unprocessed audio. But today, I'm gonna take a little trip down memory lane. I'm gonna bring you guys along for the ride. So many of you know that I am an absolute gear psycho. I have tons and tons of tube amps. I've got a ton of guitars, mostly single cuts. And I am just a dude who loves gear and is very, very passionate about it. But there was a point in time where that was not the case. Back in 2009, my band at the time did a 2-month European tour, and I left for that tour without owning a single piece of gear. I am serious. I toured Europe for 2 months, and I didn't even own the guitar that I was playing on, and I sure as hell did not have a tube amp and a 4x12 cab. So a quick shout out to every person in Europe that let me borrow your rig at the time, because I probably would have wanted to punch me too. But anyways, I was unfazed by that. So fast forward to the next year, 2010, the same band went out for 30 days on the road in the United States. And I figured, you know what? I should probably have some gear. So right before the tour, I bought a Jackson Dinky, I bought a Madison Divinity head, and I bought a Behringer Ultra Stack cab and a no-name cab with G12 T75 speakers in it that was covered in disgusting carpet from my friend Jason Howell. It was basically a Marshall 1960 clone. So I did that full 30 days with that rig, and boy, did I hate it. The Jackson had a Floyd Rose on it. I couldn't get it to stay in tune. It sounded thin. It never really sounded all that great. The Madison Divinity was an absolute turd. That thing broke down on me 3 times on that tour. So every night I was either having issues or wondering if I was even going to have an amp to play or any money left to fix it because it cost me so much to get repaired. But something good happened on that tour. I got to play on somebody else's EC1000, and I got to play on a PV6505. And man, was it glorious. So the first thing that I did when I got home is I started looking for gear. I ended up with a PV6505. I ended up with the Mesa Rectifier oversized cab. And at first, I ended up with a Schecter Solo 6 because I really liked that see-through black cherry, and I liked the shape of the Solo 6 at the time. But when I got that guitar, it just kind of felt dead. There was nothing that I really loved about it. It never really spoke to me, and I ended up returning it. And in the meantime, I bought a black EC1000, the gloss black with the gold hardware and EMGs in it, and I ended up really liking that guitar. But for some reason, the Amber Burst, when I was searching for that black one, the Amber Burst really caught my eye. It was bright, flashy, gaudy, a little bit ridiculous, and you know, for whatever reason, I just loved that. Now, one thing it did have was passive pickups, which I had never had a guitar with passive pickups at that point. I had only owned guitars with EMGs, and I figured, you know what? Why don't I try something a little bit different, because all I've known is EMGs up to that point. So I started looking for one of these guitars. Lo and behold, I found one on eBay. Again, this is 2010 for a buy it now price of $375 with the ESP fitted hard shell case. So I went ahead, I took a chance, I bought it. And when I got this guitar in my hands for the first time, I was immediately in love. This is my first favorite guitar for a number of reasons, which we will get into in a little bit here, but there's a sad part of this story. I ended up falling on some hard times. I lost my job a couple years after I bought this guitar and was having some financial issues, and I ended up selling not only this guitar, but I ended up selling pretty much my entire collection. All I had left at one point was a 6505, my Mesa Rectifier cab, and my beat up Les Paul Studio. Now, of all the items that I had to sell in that purge in order to make sure that I had made my ends meet, this guitar was the one that I regretted the most. I really missed it. I have since bought and sold a couple of these, but I have never quite found one that spoke to me the way that the original did. And it has been a couple years since I have actually owned one. So I made a Facebook post a couple of weeks ago and basically asked for people to keep an eye out for one of these guitars for me at a decent price, because I was really getting the itch to track one down again. Well, lo and behold, my friend Tom Stankiewicz, who lives out in Cleveland, a couple hours away from me, just happened to have one that he was looking to get rid of for a price that I was willing to pay. We made the deal, and on my way to Sweetwater, I actually picked this guitar up and brought it home with me. So what did I love so much about the first one of these Amber EC1000s that made me go on the hunt to try and find and replace this so many years later? There were a number of things. Number one, the Duncan JB pickup in the bridge here. When I heard this for the first time, it was like hearing the angels sing, because for some reason, just the EMGs always sounded kind of dead, kind of lifeless to me. And even at the time when I didn't know what I was looking for from my guitar tone, I knew that I kind of wanted to try something different. As soon as I played this JB, it just opened me up to passive pickups, and honestly, the JB to this day is still one of my favorite pickups for thrash metal and hardcore. I love this pickup, and in the right guitar, these things really sound incredible. Another thing that I loved was the Sperzel locking tuners. Not long after I got into the whole guitar collecting game, I moved from EC1000s over to Gibson Les Paul Studios as my favorite guitars. Gibson Les Paul Studios definitely do not have the same tuning stability that this guitar does in general. So this one is an older one with one of the Earvana compensated nuts and the Sperzel locking tuners, and it stays in tune really well. And when you hit bar chords, you know, along the neck, it just seems to be intonated a little bit better than guitars with the standard nut. And I remember my first one of these guitars just being rock solid as far as the tuning goes, and never really having to worry about it going out of tune. And that was something that I definitely missed moving over to Les Paul Studios. Third would be just the finish, man. I mean, I am a Les Paul guy through and through. You guys know that I love my Gibson Les Pauls. I have a whole bunch of them that pop up here and there on the channel, but I'm just into that vintage flame top look. And even though this guitar has all the gaudy abalone binding all over it, which now is almost like a guitar meme at this point, I actually think that it looks really cool on this guitar. It fits the Amber Sunburst really well, and the flame top on this particular model is really nice too. And it's just one of those guitars that when I see it, I want to pick it up just based on how pretty it looks, to be completely honest. I really like the way that these guitars look. Another thing that I loved was the tummy cut and the neck. This was just a really comfortable guitar overall for me to play. And yeah, man, it's just, there were so many things that I loved about it at the time, and the particular one that I had was really snappy, was really bright and alive sounding, and I missed it. I'm super glad to have one of these guitars back in my possession that actually sounds and feels, it reminds me very much of the first one that I had. So yeah, just wanted to bring you guys along on the ride and kind of bring you into a little bit of my guitar history and why I love these things so much. So we are actually gonna plug this into basically what was my rig at the time when I first got this guitar, a 5150, into that same Mesa rectifier cab. I've had that cab all these years. That is the only piece of gear that I still own from back in that time. So we're gonna riff this guitar through that rig real quick, show you guys how it sounds. All right, so at the moment we have the Westminster Effects Piper Drive pushing the front end of this amplifier. I have a dead weld Golem gate, keeping everything nice and quiet, but yeah, man, this guitar sounds really good right off the rip. Yeah, man, still awesome. Still love the JB all these years later. Let's try a different overdrive. Let's try something like the M77, since that's probably what I would have used at the time. So let's play a riff that I probably would have played constantly back in that time. That's not right, but I still had fun anyways. This is taking me back, man. I played this guitar for so many shows. I wrote a lot of riffs on this guitar as well. Let's actually revisit a riff that I wrote back then. We've got the Electric Eye Mud Killer on in front of the amp right now. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for me today on my little trip down memory lane with my newly acquired, but yet my first favorite guitar. This has been the EC1000 Amber Flame, and man, I am super happy to have this thing back. I'm happy to have you guys along with the ride for events like these too. It makes it way more fun, way more special to share this type of stuff with you guys. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it entertaining. And if you did and you're not subscribed here and you liked the video, do me a favor and subscribe. I'm trying really hard to get to 20,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It would mean a lot to me to have you guys along for the ride permanently, because once you're subscribed, you can't go anywhere. And if you want to help my weird ass and what I do here on my channel, down in the description of this video, I'm going to provide some affiliate links. So if you want to pick up a similar guitar like this because you just see how absolutely awesome and beautiful it is, and I am a really good salesman, there will be affiliate links for Sweetwater and Zounds down there for you guys to click on. And if you guys shop with those companies at all, it gives me a little bit of a kickback, which I can invest into more stuff for this channel to bring you guys more content. So I would really appreciate it. With that being said, I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching. Kyle here again, and we'll see you next time. Definitely don't hiccup on the outro.
You know what this wall is missing? Another amp. There we go.